Hello and welcome. This is your global news update for Friday, January 24th. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get right into it.
So, what's on the docket today? Well, we're starting with some really high-stakes peace talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. Then we're heading to New Zealand, where a truly tragic story is unfolding with some deadly landslides. And we'll wrap up in the U.S. with a look at a major protest in Minnesota called the economic blackout.
All right, let's kick things off on the world stage. We're keeping an eye on two huge diplomatic events, one that just wrapped up in Davos and another that's happening right now in Abu Dhabi.
So, the big one is happening in Abu Dhabi. You've got the U.S., Ukraine, and Russia all at the table for a two-day meeting. This is a really significant push from Washington to try and find a way forward, to broker some kind of peace settlement. I mean, we're getting close to the 4-year mark of this full-scale war, so the stakes are incredibly high.
And of course, everyone's wondering, how's it going? Well, after the first day, the only official word we've gotten from the White House is productive. Just that one word. It's cautiously optimistic, but they're definitely playing their cards close to the chest while the talks are still going on. So that's all we have for now.
Okay, so while that's happening in the UAE, another major global gathering has just come to a close. The World Economic Forum's big annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, wrapped up after a full week of some pretty intense discussions.
The theme this year was a spirit of dialogue, which feels pretty fitting, right? And it seems like a few key things came out of it. First, there was a big push for new partnerships and investments. Second, you got the sense that leaders are really admitting they're facing a kind of reckoning with these massive global challenges. The takeaway? Dialogue is absolutely key. But, and this is a big but, there's also this feeling of living the questions. Basically acknowledging that right now, we've got a lot more tough questions than we have easy answers.
All right, we have to shift gears now to a really heartbreaking story developing in New Zealand. Heavy rains there have led to an absolutely devastating natural disaster.
So this all started back on Thursday the 22nd. After a ton of rain, two different landslides hit. One of them just completely swallowed a house, and the other one slammed into a campsite in a really popular tourist area at the base of Mount Maunganui.
And the human cost is it's tragic. We now have confirmation from authorities that sadly, 2 people died when their home was hit by that first landslide.
And the situation is still incredibly tense at that holiday park. Right now, there's a desperate search and rescue operation underway. They're looking for at least 6 other people, including a couple of teenagers who are still missing after the second slide came down on the campsite. Just an awful situation.
You can really feel the weight of this across the country. The Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, visited the area today and he met with the families who've been affected. He said it best, really. New Zealand is full of grief today and grieves with them.
Okay, let's pivot for a moment and take a look at some really cool stuff happening in the world of science and tech.
Wow, it has been a huge week for breakthroughs. I mean, just listen to this quick rundown. First, a new study suggests that a single gene, called APOE, might be linked to 90% of Alzheimer's cases. That's incredible. Then, a fossil jawbone found in Ethiopia is pushing back what we know about our early human relatives. Oh, and get this. New research is pointing to a hidden ocean on Jupiter's moon Europa that could actually support life. And to top it all off, chemists at UCLA literally just overturned a chemistry rule that's been in the textbooks for 100 years. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on all of these.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the United States. A really interesting coordinated protest has been happening all day in the state of Minnesota.
So on Friday, hundreds and hundreds of businesses in Minnesota just didn't open. They shut their doors for the day as part of something they called a statewide economic blackout. It was a protest organized by this big coalition of community leaders, unions, and everyday people. And it was aimed at recent actions by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE.
And the idea behind it was pretty simple, summed up by their slogan, no work, no school, no shopping. We're talking hundreds of businesses, plus unions that represent more than 80,000 workers. So what kicked all this off? What was a direct response to the recent arrest of some activists who had been involved in an earlier protest.
And finally today, let's wrap up with a quick look at the world of sports, with some big news from tennis and soccer.
First up, down at the Australian Open, we have a massive upset. An 18-year-old American, Iva Yusevic, just scored a huge win. And the best part of the story? She's crediting some last-minute advice from none other than Novak Djokovic for helping her pull it off. How cool is that?
Meanwhile, in the soccer world, there's some serious controversy brewing after the Africa Cup of Nations final. Things got pretty chaotic at the end of the match, and now FIFA's president has come out and publicly slammed the conduct of Senegal's coaching staff, calling it unacceptable.
And that's where we'll leave it. That concludes our global update for today. For The Explainer, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back with another update for you in 24 hours. And hey, if you want to stay up to date, please be sure to like this and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.